my attitudes and behaviors, look at the attitudes and behaviors that have brought me to this place. Because often our attitudes, beliefs, and judgments prevent us from being open to that communication. So whoever has a question, go ahead and ask Sam now. And I know Leslie has a question about watching these replays. It's on our YouTube channel, Hale Ho'onani. I'll put that in the chat. Mardell, we're going to pray for your cat, Smokey, next week at our prayer meeting, November 7th, after the service. Robin, thank you for sharing about Molly. So whoever has questions for Sam about this particular step, go ahead and unmute and ask her.
That's it.
Okay, so then step 2 is...
Wait. Back up.
Go.
I will clarify that statement, because this is a major key. Major. When I had my experience with Star, I asked God, this was after Star's death, because I was given 2 gifts of that, but that set the seeds. I asked God, how and why am I able to communicate with other species, be it in physical or non-physical body? And what God did when in my prayer and my meditation showed me when I was a teenager, my actual behavior. I'm watching a film of myself as a teenager, talking to my best friends who start gossiping. And I tried to change the subject, and that didn't work. And I said just something, excuse me, I just have to go to the bathroom, and I left. Now, I didn't do that for any moral higher ground. I did it because my gut hurt. And I noticed that my gut hurt every single time people were talking about somebody else in a negative way, or just talking about negative stuff. And so I asked about that. And one of the things that's come to mind, why this is so important, about non-judgmental and not talking about things that aren't, totally uplifting. We can talk about a lot of stuff, but you can talk about it from a more broader scope. Number 1, if you're not a safe place to communicate, an animal is not going to communicate with you. And so being able to catch yourself in the act of doing anything about communicating or judging, pay attention to those behaviors and attitudes. Update them if they no longer serve what you really want in your life. It's critical to do that. Right now, on the internet explodes with negative stuff towards people, bullying, gossiping, untruths. And so for us, it's vital that we do just the opposite, to start balancing what is being played out right in front of us, be it on TV or wherever. So if you want to talk to your dog in physical form and find out what they think, or if they're out of their physical form, then start looking at your attitudes, catch yourself, change it, move towards recognizing I'm refining a skill that comes natural to me. Okay, number 2. Okay, Vic.
Wonderful. So number 2 is become aware of gratitude. Gratitude opens us to receive. You want to comment that? And anyone who can wants to ask questions can unmute and interrupt Samantha.
Yes, please do. Gratitude to me is, I'm living in gratitude. I have long conversations with God all the time. He's my personal father. And I mean biological. I see him as a emotionally family member as well as omnipresent. And so when I go to a grocery store and I need Italian seasoning, and I can't find it. And I go to the next store and there it is in the back, one jar left. I'm in gratitude and I say it out. I not only thank God, I feel the gratitude. I feel the gratitude having the cats I have. I feel and I acknowledge and I develop more of that, because it's kind of like having a magic bullet. The more that you're in a state of gratitude or acknowledging that, you grow. And not only will money come in, but your ability to communicate with other species grows. And so look at that and put a little note someplace about, oh yeah, let me feel gratitude every day. Let me acknowledge what I'm grateful for. Let that move in a way that expands me. Okay. Any questions?
3 is have a goal. And for Sam, she had to be in an inspired place all the time to allow God to work through her.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that this was changing me. When I started this, I was a painter. I had no knowledge at all of animal communication. I made my living doing portraits of people and painting, and I could not be in that inspired space and then paint. I had to make an income. And there were a lot of artists that would wait to be inspired, and then they'd ride that high. I decided that, okay, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to be inspired on a regular basis. So on my coffee table, even here now, and this was years and years ago, I had things placed that I would look at that would lift me up and inspire me. So on my coffee table here, I have crystals and I have a plant and I put little twinkling lights on it. So different locations, when you turn your head and you love something, place it so that you can look at it and that it emotionally goes, oh, I just love that. I have altars that aren't like a regular altar, but it has a meaning that inspires me. So you want to do things like listening to music. I would listen to people that would inspire, that would hit that uh, space that went beyond a normal emotion, that lifted you up. I called it my heaven music. I listen to birds in the morning. The morning birds have a frequency that helps to inspire you. I put little quotations on my mirror in the bathroom. I did everything I possibly could, even watching the sunset, let it quiet my nerves, but it also inspired me. So do that. Feed yourself inspiration back that lifts you up. Yes, question. Nope. Okay.
Okay, great. Sophia, go ahead and ask a question.
This is so powerful and resonant with, past lessons that Vicky's offered, and thinking around like the food and how we are such connected beings. I guess my question, Sam, and I hope this is clear, is like, you talk about this, I'm hearing you talk about like a period of life where you were learning to be open to this magic.
Yes.
And yeah, I guess, like, do you feel like now you kind of just don't have to try to do that? It just comes natural, but before you kind of had to try? Or
Yes. I had to be aware, and I knew that at that time, regarding that particular understanding about being inspired and how do you inspire yourself on a regular basis, I had to have an income. I had 2 little children and I didn't have a husband. I was raising them by myself. I relied on my portraits and painting as the income. And so recognizing that I didn't want to wait until I was inspired. I couldn't. how do one stay in that inspiration? And so I was shown, and I recognized that when I was going someplace and I looked at something, it would lift me up. And so that's where I got the clues. And I thought, okay, I'm going to create things in the house. When I turn my head and I see that, it lifts me. It feeds back to me the emotion that inspires my creativity. Plus, I knew that the masters, when they did a painting, they left a frequency on that canvas that lasted for centuries. They can still measure the frequency coming off that canvas. So most of the portraits I did were people that had died, or somebody that was sick, and I wanted them to look at that portrait of themselves and see the beauty of who they were. And so that had to have a frequency of gratitude and a frequency of inspiration that mirrored to them. If it mirrored to me and I'm putting it on it, it would mirror to them. So start looking at that in your home. I know that plants and really turn you on. I could see when you touch, the other day when we were doing this, you were taking little leaves off of something. And yes, 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 yes. And I could feel the inspiration of that and the love of that. And so if you offered that to somebody, they would feel that energy from you. It magnifies it. So I hope that answers your question.
Wonderful. So step 4 is our words are powerful, and our words are more powerful than anyone else's words. We're attuned to respond to our own words. That opens, uplifts, and touches our vibration.
How I I had an inner teacher that I could hear. And when I would hear a prayer from somebody else, and I would write that prayer down. And I can feel that most people are going to do this, take the prayer that I said last week and hold on to it. But my teacher said that the more that I do a prayer and choose my words, because I know myself, and put it into a recording and then play it back to me, that was more powerful than somebody else's words. And so that's where that came from. And then when I started to trust my intuition and I would always say, God, what do you want me to say? And when I started to trust that, then the words would come that would inspire a whole group. So write your prayer and use words that you automatically know that uplift you, that expand your sensory system, that melt you in some way emotionally. So one of the things when I say a prayer, I use that word, beloved Father, because at 8, I believed that God was my biological father. Being adopted, I needed to belong to someone. And so when I say that term, it emotionally opens me up. So find some terms that emotionally open you up. You want to evolve. These are little steps that can help you do that in any direction that you want to go. Okie doke.
Wonderful. So step 5 is acknowledge the soul of the animal.
One of the beautiful things is the minute I asked, how in the world do you get in touch with the soul? And I hear God tell me, all you have to do is love. So recall a memory of the face of that being and the action of that being that expands your heart, and your chest just wells up and you feel that aspect. And so when you feel that aspect, not only are you acknowledging, because I focus on this, I'm acknowledging that being's intelligence, I'm acknowledging its personality, and I'm acknowledging most of all its soul, especially when you're doing this kind of work. Because the beauty of this is you're saying, I acknowledge the God in you that created your physical form, as well as the soul that is consistent, be it in a physical body or out of a physical body. That aspect of the soul is grounded, even if it's in another vibration than where we are. Kate.
Good. So step 6 is, sometimes we can't communicate because we're sort of frightened to see ghosts, but we can practice by seeing angels.
Yes. I was told in my head, because I wanted to see Star, my Irish setter, when after he died and I was in such grief. I wanted to have that experience. I wanted to see him, physically see him. But I was terrified, unbelievably terrified. And I always had to get up, and I still do, to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. So my inner teacher tells me, expect to see an angel, a bright light that is emotionally uplifting to you, so you feel safe when you see this being. Expect to see it when you go to the bathroom. Just pretend that I'm going to get up and walk down the hallway, and at the end of the hallway, there's going to be this beautiful being of light, angel, that makes me feel safe. And that will open the door. Now, also, we have to get rid of the fear of that. And at the same time, I had a belief that if I is able to see Star or an angel, that I would see something terrifying. I don't, I understand. If I open that door, I am not going to see things that are spooky. It's not going to happen to me. So recognize, when I talk about update your information, check and update that child fear and get rid of it. Recognize, no, I won't see any of that. I don't participate in that. That isn't where my love and my light is. Kate.
So here's the prayer that Samantha uses, even though she wants for you today to eventually create your own prayer.
Yes. Now, I just made a statement about God and believing that when I used the word beloved Father. I was 8 years old, remember, 8 years old, when I was told by a minister that God was my father. Obviously, he's thinking of the Heavenly Father, and he doesn't know that I'm adopted. And it's crystal clear that I am not related to the people that are raising me. And so when he said that to me, I thought to myself, no wonder they're keeping this a secret. Gave me the New Testament, and I would take my drawing stuff, my little black New Testament, my dog, and a blanket on top of the garage roof. And I would have long conversations, starting long conversations with God as my physical, biological father. That was a gift. I have done that consistently my whole life. I walk down a grocery store, we're having a conversation. When I do a prayer, then, and I say, beloved Father, I'm relating to him as a family member. In the prayer, when I say, open my mind, my emotions, my sensory system, I am asking the omniscient, aspect of God to participate and lift me up and expand. So I hope that gives you an understanding of use terms that are endearing in your prayer. It could be even a nickname for God. If it's emotionally endearing and it means something to you, then add it to your prayer. Add that part. That aspect wants the intimacy, wants you to feel like God's walking beside you. Vicky wrote a book, started writing a book quite a while ago. And in the book, she wrote about God being with you through every single experience you're having, side by side, experiencing your loss. And so that intimacy is so powerful. So allow yourself to write a prayer that moves you to that place. Any questions before we get into the process?
Okay, and the very last thing is these are the products Samantha uses in grief to deal with grief and also to anoint your pet's body as they're passing away. And you can buy them on her website right there. You want to talk about this, Sam?
Yeah, and I'll be quick on this. Star of Bethlehem. I love Star of Bethlehem. It deals with grief, loss, but also it deals with neutralizing any past or present trauma. You can put it on the body where there may be an imprint of the trauma, and it'll help move the cellular memory out. You can put it in your tea if your dog suddenly died. You can give it to them in their water or their food if they have experienced their owner leaving and they don't have anybody any longer, or they've got a new home. Honeysuckle is the primary remedy when a person or an animal is homesick. They've got another home, or their companion animal is no longer with them. Then you want to use honeysuckle because it deals also with grief, but homesickness, any kind of aspect that deals with that. Frankincense, I love because it's ancient, and in the Bible, it talks about it as almost the most precious aspect that you could give somebody. And so when my kitties made that transition, I put some frankincense, myrrh, and I don't remember what the other ones, in a little bit of water. And then after Patrick left, I wiped his little paws with a washcloth in that and did a prayer before I took him to be cremated. When a person's in grief and they're just going through the process, but they're of living, but not living because the shock or the trauma is so intense, then use a little bit of frankincense. Also, serenity calms you when you're in a panic state, or an animal's in a panic state, or sudden death. So utilize those to help you. All righty. Any questions on that?